Now, I'm not one of these designers who loves putting 50 guides on every page, but I do recognize the value of a few well-placed guides in order to speed up production and encourage consistency. Although guides are pretty easy to use, I want to show you a few tricks for working with them that can make guides even easier and more helpful for you. As I discussed in the InDesign Essential Training title, you can pull guides out onto your page by dragging them out of the rulers. You drag a guide out and drop it on the page, and it becomes a page guide. Drag it out and drop it on the pasteboard, and it becomes a pasteboard guide. What if I want a guide to snap right to the edge of this object? I don't know exactly where the object is, so I don't know where to drop it, right? Well, if you select the object first, then when you drag the guide out, you let go of the guide while it's on top of one of these side or corner handles, the guide snaps right to it. Very handy. This is a way that you can snap a guide to an object instead of the other way around. It's easy to snap objects to guides, right? You just select the objects, drag them around until they snap right to the edge. Well, what if you want to get close to a guide, but you don't want to exactly snap to it? I could take a trip up to the View menu and try and find Grids and Guides and turn off Snap to Guides, but that's just way too much work for me. I'm working fast. I need a fast solution. I could try and remember the keyboard shortcut, but instead I want to go even faster than the keyboard shortcut. So don't forget that if you hold down the Control key, that's Mac or Windows, the Control key will actually let you get near a guide, but it turns off the Snap to Guide temporarily, so I can let go of it exactly where I want it to go. So Control key, Mac or Windows, turns it off temporarily. Very handy. I use that all the time. Now, because guides are objects, you can do all kinds of things with them that you might not expect to. For example, you can delete a guide simply by clicking on it and hit delete, right? You know that one. What if you want to get a bunch of guides? I'll drag this one up here. Notice that when I dragged it, I let go of it while it was on the page, so it turned into a page guide. And now I'm going to, let's say I'll step and repeat it. Sure, we can do that. You could use duplicate or step and repeat. And I'm going to say I want 5 more guides at, well, let's come up with something, maybe 12 millimeters down the page. So I suddenly have a bunch of guides on my page. Very handy, very fast. They're just objects, so treat them as objects. I can then select each of these. I'm shift-clicking on them just like I would shift-click on an object. And I can copy them. I'll go to the Edit menu and choose Copy, and I'll go to the next page by pressing Shift Page Down, and then I can paste it. And if I paste those guides, they end up in exactly the same place on the page, because InDesign remembers page geometry. Where are they? Well, the eagle-eyed among you will have noticed that they showed up over here on the right side of the page. That's because they came from a right-hand page, so they're going to end up on a right-hand page. So you have to be aware of page geometry is not just the position on the page, but also which side of the page they're on. Let's go back to page 1. I'll do a shift page up to go back to the first page I was working on. And I'm going to add some other guides onto this page. Why not? I'll drag this out, and I want to get to 24 picas, and I'm looking at the ruler at the top of the screen, and I'm not sure exactly where it should be, so I'll let go. And I'll notice I didn't get it exactly right. That's really frustrating. Well, fortunately, I can drag this and hold down the Shift key, and the Shift key means snap to the nearest tick mark in the ruler. I love this one. So as I'm dragging, I'm holding down the Shift key, and that means it'll snap right to the place that I want it to, exactly at 24 picas. This also works, by the way, when you double-click in a ruler. For example, I can double-click up here near 36, and it adds a guide exactly where I double-clicked. Unfortunately, it wasn't exactly at 36 picas, so I'm going to delete that. And instead, I'll shift double-click. Shift double-click means place a guide at this position, but make sure it's snapped to the nearest tick mark on the ruler. Very, very handy. Okay, there's all kinds of other things we can do with guides. What if we want to change the color of a guide? Let's say we want to change this color from the normal cyan to some other color. By the way, look at this. It turned red when I clicked on it. What does red mean? Well, red refers to what layer it's on. It's currently on the text layer. Well, this doesn't make any sense. Let's go ahead and put this all on a different layer, a guides layer. I'm going to create a new layer by clicking on the new layer button in the layers panel. I'll double click on it to give it a different name, and I'll call it my guides layer, and I'll click OK. Now I've got a different guide layer, and I want to put all of these guides on that layer. Well, how do I select all your guides? Control, Alt, G on Windows or Command Option G on the Mac selects all the guides on the current spread. And now I can drag those up onto my guides layer, and now they're all on that layer. So I can hide them and show them with a single click. I love this feature. So notice that the default value is the cyan color. If I click on one, then it shows me the color of the layer it's on. But what if I really want to change its color when it's not selected? I don't want it to be cyan. I want it to be some other color. Well, that's easy. I can simply select it, go to the layout menu, and choose Ruler Guides. And I can change it from cyan to any color I want. Let's make it brown. Click OK, and now when I deselect, you can see that these are all cyan, but this one is brown. I can do the same thing by selecting, let's say I'll select 3 of these by holding down the Shift key, and then I will right-click on that and choose Ruler Guides from here. Same thing, pick a color, let's make them green, click OK, and now those are green. This one's brown, the rest are cyan, and I'm good to go. By the way, I want to point out one other thing that's kind of handy. I'll select those green ones one more time, and I'll go to Ruler Guides, and I want to show you one more feature, the View Threshold feature. What is that about? Threshold means what view percentage should these guides be visible at? Right now, they're pretty much always visible at anything over 5%. But if I change this to 100% and click OK, what happened? They disappeared. Where did they go? Were they deleted? No, they weren't deleted. They're disappeared because we're at 77% view mode right now. If I go to 100% view mode by doing Command 1 on Mac or Control 1 on Windows, they come back. In fact, if I go in to 125%, they're still visible. I pressed Command plus on the Mac or Control plus on Windows to zoom in to 125%. They're still there. Command minus or Control minus on Windows to zoom back, and zoom back one more time, and they're gone. Now we're at 75%, so they've disappeared because the threshold was 100%. So you can set up some very complex systems of having some guides visible when you're zoomed in and other guides visible when you're zoomed out. Very handy. But remember, just because you can put a few hundred guides on a page doesn't mean you should. Keep it simple, keep it focused, manage them carefully so that the guides you do use can do their job for you.